So, huge exploding student loan debt in the US and huge exploding debt across the entire economy. This is due to mismanagement and bad policies by governments. Don't fool yourself. Anyway, so should you get a degree? Well, I think the need for a degree keeps diminishing every year. The school industrial complex, their game is quickly coming to an end because people are realizing that somewhere about 80% or so of the degrees offered in universities and colleges have no economic value. So art history degrees and religious studies degrees and most psychology degrees, and I could go on and on and on. All these arts degrees don't have any economic value. And soon this story that you should get a degree no matter what, this is fading. People are starting to realize it, unfortunately, by having massive amounts of debt because of overinflated values in colleges and no jobs. So I did go to university, and I dropped out after about a year and a half because of health problems, because of business as well. And I did have some student loan debt, but I quickly paid it off because student loan debt is a weird debt where it's the only debt where you can't get rid of it through bankruptcy. So if you are going into student loan debt, you're basically becoming an indentured servant. It's a type of slavery, if you will. It's not a good thing. And this has to be, again, this is because of government policy. And this whole idea that having a degree, you should have a degree no matter what. No. And they come out with all these studies. One thing I learned about in university, by the way, you can take any set of data and manipulate it and look at it from different perspectives to get an outcome that aligns with whatever story you want to tell. So the story university has been telling us, oh, you get a degree, you're going to make much more money over your lifetime, blah, 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 blah. That's not true. It's simply not true for, I'd say, about 80% of people. If you're doing medical and dental and degrees that require some sort of a certification that is warranted, then yes. But the vast majority are not like that at all. So, like for example, if you want to be an entrepreneur, you want to go into business, don't go to university. That's the stupidest thing you can do. I've looked at books. I was driving around the southern U.S. and I popped into a big university and I looked at one of the textbooks. I went into the bookstore for whatever reasons, and I just curious. I looked at one of the textbooks on entrepreneurism, and they had these PhDs who wrote it, and it was such garbage. It was like, I could tell you, I've been in business for 35 years or so. What they were writing in there was so much garbage. Clearly, the professors who wrote the book had never had a business before. Like, if you want to learn to run a business, don't go to university. Go work for a guy who runs a hot dog stand on the street. You're going to learn more from this guy or the guy who runs a breakfast restaurant. You're going to learn more about business from that guy than you will from any university, because most of the professors have never had a business and never been in the business world. If you're lucky, they've done corporate, and corporate is not business. So how do you decide if a degree is worth it? Is it worth going into school for 3-4 years, possibly going into debt? Remember, when you go to school for 3-4 years, that's opportunity cost, meaning you could be working for 3-4 years making money as opposed to not making money and spending money. So you have to quantify those costs. You have to add up the numbers and say, okay, how much is this degree costing me, and is it worth it? So how do you just judge if it's worth it? Number one, you look at the potential jobs you can get that are realistic. Don't get into a degree where you think, oh, I got a 10% chance. No, look at the actual jobs, and don't listen to what the schools tell you. Go do your own research. There's something called Google and ChatGPT, and do a bunch of research. If you're going to spend 4 years on something, at least spend a good few weeks figuring out whether the degree has any actual economic value. So that's the first thing. Are there jobs? And are the jobs likely to be had? And are they high paying? It's worth it, again, to re-emphasize, it's really worth it for you to research this stuff. understand this stuff very, very well. Then the next step is to actually try to talk to people who are in the careers you're aiming to get into. Talk to them, see what it's like, see what the situation is like, see if they like their jobs. Ask them to tell you the pros and the cons of working in this type of job. What kind of company is going to work for? These are all questions that students don't ask themselves. And you gotta do it, and you gotta ask these questions, you gotta research these things, and then double up. Remember, when you're young, especially if you're young, you're under 25, 26, your brain is not fully developed. You're not playing with the full deck of cards. You're not at your full capacity. You got one cylinder going, you know? You got one motor going instead of four. You're not all there. So you have to, like if you're drunk, you have to assume that when you're evaluating things, you're doing it with less than stellar capabilities, right? That's just the way it is. So yeah, a little side note, that's why you should never listen to 20-something-year-old influencers. A, their brains are not fully developed. B, what the hell you know at 20? Nothing. I can tell you, being I'm an old man now, well, middle-aged. What I knew at 20, and I had a business, and I had done a bunch of things, relatively speaking, but still, what I knew at 20 compared to what I know now, what I knew at 20 versus 30, big difference. What I knew at 30 versus 40, big difference. What I know now in my mid-50s versus what I knew when in my 20s, it's not even close. Not even close. I actually was I was going through my closets and I found an old, I won't call it a diary, it was a logbook, where I just wrote my thoughts at 18, 19 years old, because I was building my first company at the time, and I was dealing with major health issues, blah, 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 unusual stuff. And I looked at how I thought. I got to read into my 19-year-old mind, my 18-year-old mind. And let me tell you, young cousin Steph, if only old Uncle Steph could reach back in time and talk to young cousin Steph and say, you know, I know you think this way, I know you feel this way, but you're not, you don't got the real picture here. You know, you're not doing the right moves. So keep that in mind. So reevaluate, reevaluate, and evaluate. So how about comp-sci degrees or computer engineering? Would you get into that now? I was never a big fan of that. I don't have a background in computer engineering, and I build SaaS apps, and I've never worked for other people, except as a bouncer when I was 18, 19. But I've been offered jobs, and I worked on big contracts for big pharma, banks, and so on. So it's always been the case with the computer world. Demonstrable skills trumped certification. So I've never been a big fan of certification, even though I have a piece of software that provides certification, has a certification platform that schools wanted me to deliver. So I delivered it, and it was a good tool for teaching the middle and the high school and the college kids, I guess. But no, I've never been a big fan of certifications and degrees. I think in the age of AI, comp-sci degrees are even losing more value. If you're going to get any degree today in that general realm, I would get into AI development, just because they're throwing so much money at AI. It's all about market forces. But again, if you can show you're an expert at creating models and working with models and agents and AI, you're going to get a job and make tons of money. So for example, recently a young guy, he started up some sort of AI coding platform, and within 6 months he was able to sell it to Wix for, I think it was 80 million or something, and they brought him in as a full-time employee. So I don't think they hired him and gave him 80 million because he had a degree. It's because he was able to produce something. And that's one of the things that always attracted me about the software world. It's always about merit. It's always about what you can do as opposed to the piece of paper you have. A lot of the worthless degrees, like the HRs and the psychologies and the economics and all these degrees, where they were very based on credentialing. You know, because it's really hard to measure a value with a psychologist. It's really hard to measure value with an economist. It's very hard to put a value to somebody with a religious studies background or art history background or whatever it is. Again, I'm not saying that these fields of study have no value. I think they might have some value. Like one of my most important classes I ever took as an elective was anthropology. But it had no economic value, not directly anyway. It helped me to understand certain things about existence, if you will, about humanity. But that was about it. If you're bent on getting a degree in the technology space, I would just do it in the AI area, simply because of supply and demand. If you want to be a traditional developer, I would just go out and build things. Go out and build things. Having a nice, strong resume with real projects that you can demonstrate, that's going to be worth far, far, far more than degrees. Because I tell you, having been an employer for a long, long time and talking to lots of people who hire developers, the degrees are not really a good indicator as whether somebody is actually good at what they do. It really isn't. All it is an indicator of is that you can follow through and show up on time and do your assignments. That's pretty much it. So I think you could demonstrate that much more effectively and a whole much more by just getting into writing code, building little apps for people. All right, that's the story. I hope you found this video useful. If you disagree with anything I say, put in the comments below. If you'd like me to expand on certain things like resume building or something, put it in the comments below. If you hate my hat, give me 2 thumbs down. If you like my hat, give me a thumbs up. And let me know if you like these more casual vlogs in the park as opposed to me sitting at my desk. All right, I'm gonna go get coffee number 2 for today.